Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 AABE-NYMAC Energy Summit. I am Deborah Alabi, a master's student at NYU Tandon School of Engineering studying mechanical engineering, president of AABE-NYMAC Collegiate Chapter, and co-chair of the 2022 AABE-NYMAC Energy Summit. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to join us for our collection of talks and panels centered around the theme of energy in the 21st century, progress, policy, and equality. Just like any other conference or summit, there are opportunities to network with your fellow speakers and attendees. I encourage you all to take advantage of the summit platform to look at the list of attendees and to reach out to one another. If you would like any more information on any of the speakers and panelists at the panel today and tomorrow, please navigate to the speakers and panelists section of the summit platform. And now I would like to introduce William Suggs. William Suggs is an energy professional with 34 years of experience that has spanned the areas of natural gas, steam, and environmental health and safety. Currently, William is a senior specialist in the Environmental Health and Safety Department at Edison. William is a member of the American Association of Blacks in Energy, commonly referred to as AABE, and is the president of the New York Metropolitan Area chapter of AABE. AABE is a nonprofit national organization headquartered in Washington, D.C., with chapters throughout the country, and is an association of energy professionals dedicated to ensuring the input of minorities into the discussion and development of energy policies, regulations, emerging technologies, and environmental issues. Please welcome William Suggs.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our American Association of Blacks in Energy New York Metro Area Chapter Energy Summit. As Deborah mentioned, I'm Bill Suggs, the New York Chapter President, and thank you for joining us today, February 16th, 2022, our second Energy Summit. We're living in some very challenging times, as we all know. That being said, I would like to take a moment of silence for our family members, friends, and co-workers who may have passed away during these challenging times with this monster of a virus. Just a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. I would like to send a big thank you out to our Edison corporate sponsors. That's beginning with our CEO, Tim Corley, Francis Rashevsky, Milo Blair, and Deneen Donnelly, and the many more who have always been standing with AABE National and AABE-NYMAC over the years. Thank you very much. I'd like to send a big thank you out to our friends across the river, National Grid, and their leadership. Thank you. I want to make sure that I don't forget anyone, and if I do, please forgive me. I want to thank our local leadership for AABE-NYMAC. These folks work tirelessly with reviewing scholarship applications, making sure young people that's going to college are receiving the funds to help support them during their 4 years through college. Those that want to study in the areas of STEM. I want to also send a big thank you out to our community partners. And you'll be hearing from one later, Assemblywoman Latrice Walker, and there's many more that we work closely with in the community to make sure that the underrepresented communities are provided the information around energy and policy issues. A special thank you go out to our collegiate chapter president, Deborah Alabi, and her team. The collegiate chapter this year spearheaded this particular energy summit, and that's what we talk about when we're talking about building, developing a pipeline. Okay, they had the support of the energy professionals from the NYMAC chapter, but the collegiate chapter did a great job, and I want to send a big thank you out there to them. I always want to thank our dear Tansy Silver, which co-chaired the Energy Summit, our lead coordinator in many different programs like our Summit Energy Academy. And I want to thank Tori and Casey, our webmaster, which does a lot of work behind the scenes, and we really appreciate all that they do. Today, you're going to be hearing some discussion that's going to really, I think, going to bring some knowledge to the table and some jewels that we can go home and think about. So without further ado, I want to just hand over the mic back to Deborah and enjoy the rest of our Energy Summit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. And now we'll be moving on to Ralph Cleveland. Ralph Cleveland is the global head of customer operations and business transformation for AIG Property and Casualty Insurance. Prior to beginning his AIG career, Cleveland spent 30 years in the energy sector in various corporate and industry roles. Mr. Cleveland is currently serving as the president and CEO of the American Association of Blacks in Energy on the national level. Cleveland.
Good morning, everyone. Certainly, it is my pleasure to spend a little bit of time with you this morning. The issues that are going to be talked about during this summit are so critical for our community, and it is certainly a time of change and a time even of turbulence. And there are really three things that I get very concerned about in this time of change. Certainly, as we shift and transition to different energy fuels, the impact to our community can't be understated. Energy is an absolute necessity, and so as such, we need to make sure that it is broadly available, accessible, and that access is equitable, that it's affordable, and that it's reliable. And so when we take a look at the changes that are occurring, if we're not careful, there are going to be unintended consequences that leave our community in a bind. And I'm not only concerned broadly about our community as consumers of energy and needing to make sure that this necessity is broadly available to us. I'm also concerned about here. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm concerned about the most vulnerable in our community as well. The other couple of areas that I'm very concerned about as one who is, tasked to be a voice for our community in this space is there are going to be tremendous opportunities being made available. And how are those opportunities being vetted? Who has access, and how do we make sure that we're fully participating and that it's an inclusive future that we're building. And then the third area, of course, is what's the impact to human health and the environment? Are there any unintended consequences there? And then are both the benefits and the adverse impacts being visited on our community in a way that's equitable? And so those are all things that I concern myself with. Hopefully, as you have these conversations, we can illuminate on those three areas. And then the last thing I'd leave you with is, probably my biggest concern is the most vulnerable in our community, and whether or not we are making the right strides towards supporting them in this endeavor. So with that, I'll turn it back, but certainly it's my pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you, Ralph. Our final speaker for this general session will be Leonard Singh. Leonard Singh is a senior vice president for Con Edison. Prior to becoming a senior corporate officer, Mr. Singh held a number of positions in operations and engineering at Con Edison. Please welcome Leonard Singh.
Thanks, Deborah. Good morning, all. I truly appreciate the effort and the opportunity to speak at the AABE-NYMAC Energy Summit today. I think the next 2 days is packed with engaged speakers and leading edge topics, certainly facing the energy industry and the New York metropolitan region. I'm really looking forward to hearing these discussions. So real quickly today, just want to kind of shape the energy landscape and a little bit about what Con Edison is doing in this space as we make this transition. So the global energy landscape has been going through major shifts over the last decade. Energy systems are going through rapid transitions. I think they're primarily driven by a few items that are all changing simultaneously. So probably the first is the advances in technology. This includes advances in electric vehicles, solar and wind production, heat pumps, and not to exclude low carbon fuels like green hydrogen. So probably the first big area where changes are taking place. Then there's certainly, I think, a theme of today's, the next 2 days is the changing regulatory landscape, and New York is no different, right? So prominent in New York State are the ambitious goals set forth by the CLCPA, which was enacted in 2019. So that's driving also change in New York State. The next big area I'd like to talk about is the changes that's happening in customer expectations, specifically the need for information at their fingertips and the ability to better understand and manage their energy needs. And I think last but not least, the other item is investor sentiments, the push for companies to be environmentally and socially responsible. So in a nutshell, those 4 items are probably some of the key drivers that's shaping the energy landscape today. And they're all happening at about the same time. So managing them really becomes that much more important. But I also want to touch a little bit about what Ralph mentioned and Bill mentioned in his opening. Most recently, 2020 certainly has brought unprecedented disruption across the energy landscape. The COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent economic crisis really caused disruption in the energy landscape and highlighted inequities in health, education, just to name a few, in communities of color. And the path to recovery certainly remains uncertain. So what does this mean for us at Con Ed? For almost 200 years, Con Edison has been focused on providing energy solutions to support the growth and needs of New York City and Westchester County. Today, our energy systems provide energy for more than 10 million people, and we have certainly remain committed to meeting the societal goals and our customer expectations going forward. So how are we going to do that? We've developed a very comprehensive strategy outlined in our strategic objectives and our long-term plans. We plan to do this by investing in building and operating reliable, resilient, and innovative energy infrastructure, certainly advancing electrification of heating and transportation, and aggressively transitioning away from fossil fuels to a net zero economy by 2050. So I really want to spend the next few minutes to highlight some of the key elements in our plans. Following our industry-leading climate implementation plan, we plan to adapt to additional extreme weather events by investing over $2 billion in resiliency over the next 10 years. This includes undergrounding overhead power lines to the most vulnerable, to those areas most vulnerable to outages from storms, and with a focus on disadvantaged communities as part of our selection criteria. These investments certainly will reduce outages from extreme weather and build a more resilient energy grid. Something that's not fairly known about Con Edison, as the second largest solar power producer in North America, our clean energy businesses plan to invest more than $1 billion in clean energy projects over the next few years. Then there's our Con Ed transmission group, which plans to invest another $1 billion over the next 5 to 10 years to develop, with strategic partners, electric transmissions to bring that clean, renewable energy from where it's produced, whether it's offshore or upstate, to where it's needed to serve customers. In New York City and Westchester County, our plan delivers 100% clean energy by 2040 and meets all our customers' electrification needs. This will include the development of clean energy hubs to facilitate some 6,000 megawatts of offshore wind. So to cover in my last portion of today, I really want to highlight today in this last segment is our focus on partnership with our stakeholders. And I think Ralph hinted at some of the things I will talk about. Some of the things that we're doing today and will continue to do in this area includes, first, continue to enhance our collaboration with our customers and stakeholders. We will improve the quality of life of the neighborhoods we serve and live in, focusing on disadvantaged communities. We'll advocate for cost effectiveness and partner with customers, advocacy groups, our regulators, government partners, and other stakeholders to prioritize affordability for our low to moderate income customers through the transition to a clean energy future. We will certainly continue to engage environmental justice advocates to build bridges within disadvantaged communities and enhance our efforts to provide an equitable distribution of benefits when designing programs and implementing projects. Lastly, we will build on existing efforts to invest in green jobs training, STEM programs, and workforce development initiatives, including from our energy efficiency programs, with a strong focus on hiring from disadvantaged communities. So to conclude, in my 30 plus years at Con Ed, these are exciting times for the energy industry, our company, our customers, and the communities we serve. As we transition to the clean energy future, we are bringing value to our communities and our customers in terms of new jobs being created with our efforts to enable EV adoption, energy efficiency projects, solar, etc. We're helping to reduce emissions in the city and ultimately contributing to improve health for those customers living in an environmental justice zone. And finally, our efforts to reduce emissions will help to slow the impact of climate change. So certainly, thank you all for your efforts in the energy space, and looking forward to working with you and hearing your thoughts today. Enjoy the summit.